Joining us from Beijing is the director of the China National Association of International Studies, Victor Gao. Victor, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with China. China's economy is bigger than all the BRICS countries combined. Does that translate to more clout for China? Will China have more power here?
Well, of course, China is bigger among the five BRICS countries. You are right that China's economy, in terms of its size, is larger than the combined economies of Russia, Brazil, South Africa, and India. China's foreign reserve is also more than 50% of the total BRICS foreign reserve. So China will need to play a more important role in this regard. On the other hand, I think the BRICS framework made the right decision. That is, each of the five members should be treated equally. And in terms of the subscription or the capital, for example, it's pro rata. Each takes about 20%. And I think this bodes well. This means that it will be more kind of among equal partners, despite all the differences in terms of the size of the economy and otherwise. So this is a very good signal that the five BRICS countries are sending, not only to themselves, but also to other emerging economies in the world.
All these countries, of course, have different political systems, culture, demographics, economic interests, and growth. How can they overcome these differences?
Well, yes, of course, you are right. These five member states are faced with very different circumstances. However, there are also common challenges which unite them. For example, all these five member states need to maintain stability at home, keeping peace abroad, and also create an environment which is conducive to industrialization, globalization, urbanization, modernization, etc. So I would say these five members can learn from each other. And also, in terms of their economic growth, there is also a high level of complementarity. China and India, for example, are in great demand of resources, commodities, etc., whereas countries like Russia, Brazil, and South Africa are on the sales side of the equation. And also, I would say, the five BRIC country framework is not a closed-looped concept. It eventually will open up its membership for other countries to join, and it will become larger and more substantive going forward. That creates a lot of excitement for other countries like, for example, Turkey, Egypt, Mexico, Argentina, etc., and Indonesia possibly, which may also start to consider if they want to become members of the BRICS framework eventually.
So, Victor, how would that work if Mexico, for example, wants to become member of this bank, of BRICS? Is that something they have to apply for membership, or would they have to be invited?
I would say at present, the member states of the BRICS Development Bank are the five BRICS members. However, theoretically speaking, it is not inconceivable that other countries can become shareholders of the BRICS Development Bank. I would say the more broadly based the memberships are for the BRICS Development Bank, the better. That means even, for example, countries in the developed countries, Europe or North America, Oceania, etc., can, theoretically speaking at least, become members of the BRICS Development Bank. Now, on the other hand, I think what the BRICS Development Bank want to do will be a little bit different from the World Bank and the IMF will do, mainly because in the experience of many emerging markets, they have experienced some of the negative side of the financial aid or lending from World Bank and the IMF. Some of these packages come along with a lot of conditionality. I would say the BRICS Development Bank will try to do the financing for emerging markets, especially in the infrastructure sector, without these conditionalities. And this will make the lending more on the financial basis rather than out of ideological or political considerations. And this will be another big attraction, not only to these five member states, but also to many other emerging markets coming along the line.
A lot of people see the creation of this bank as a huge achievement, but getting to this point took 2 years. What took so long?
Well, I would say history will mark the establishment of this BRICS Development Bank as the first institutionalized step to put more meat on the concept of the BRICS framework, because up till the establishment of the BRICS Development Bank, BRICS is more or less a loosely structured framework for the leaders of these 5 member states to gather together to chat about important issues of concern to them. But now, with the BRICS Development Bank, and most likely with other similar institutionalized frameworks which will come into existence in the future, BRICS is no longer a loose structure. BRICS comes up with substantive framework and wherewithals which the member states can use to deal with burning issues and challenges that they are faced with. And as I mentioned, these will be important not only to the 5 member states of the BRICS framework, but to other emerging markets similarly situated like the 5 member states of the BRICS framework.
So, Victor, will the West see this as a direct challenge to the World Bank and IMF?
No, I don't think so. First of all, I think the World Bank and the IMF framework cannot do all the lending themselves. They are restricted by the size and by their institutional kind of preferences, etc. And also, I would say, in all honesty, the current international financial order was set up in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War, back in the late 1940s and early 1950s. But the world today we are living in has transformed itself profoundly over the years. Therefore, the existing international financial order, headed by the World Bank, IMF, etc., are no longer quite in line with realities on the ground today in today's world, especially in the economic side. Therefore, I think the establishment of the BRICS Development Bank is a complement and supplement to what the World Bank and the IMF can do. I would say in terms of providing lending and financing to emerging markets, the more the better, the more the merrier. So this will hopefully encourage developed countries to become more active in the World Bank IMF framework, but also I would say this will create an opportunity for developed countries, including European countries, Northern American countries, etc., to consider become members of the BRICS Development Bank. I think, and I personally hope, the door will be open to accept such subscriptions from developed countries too.
All right, thank you so much, Victor.